Hi, we are back and live from Synapse Summit in Tampa, Florida. This is the big event this week for Tampa and connecting the innovation ecosystem, both investors as well as startup founders, like my next guest here, Philip Fain, one of my favorite people as well. Um, we are going to dive into a discussion on artificial intelligence. There's a lot going on, a lot in the news being talked about with Chat GPT and people having the ability to access it more. And we're going to dive a little bit into ethics and what that means for our future, and if there's any impact on marketing and growth. And anyway, we're going to start and let Philip introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his company, Heisey.
Yeah, so my name is Philip Fain. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Heisey. Heisey is a business to business and a business to consumer technology product, right? We build solutions for both sides, but we do them in tandem because the relationships the consumers need to make decisions is in tandem with what the businesses need to make decisions. There's a sharing of information that we try to bridge the gap on in a mutual beneficial way. So we've created a personalized search engine that puts the user in charge of the algorithm, controls their own ability to make choices, and it feeds back this information around how consumers make choices to inform the businesses on how to make their decisions in alignment with the values and needs and perceptions of the people themselves.
And how does artificial intelligence apply in what you're doing?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence is a funny thing because now it's in the search space, which is kind of my
Yes.
area, right?
Yes.
And it's funny because it's receiving a lot of the same feedback that like a Google would get traditionally, where it's so big, so much information there, they have so much data to process, and they can make these predictions around what you actually value, want, and need. Um, and so it's questions that I have to answer, right? Um, but those predictions are only as good as the data that they get. And that data wasn't necessarily collected to better predict the information that you, or wasn't generated by the consumers or by the people making the websites to tell you what they want, value, and need, or how they're actually making decisions. It's all inferred based on someone's understanding of what they think they can guess based on your clicks, based on your views. It's all philosophical and ideological,
Right,
right?
right.
And
And
so,
then I think that, and we were just talking a little bit about this, the interface of Chat GPT,
mhm.
um, and everybody's been talking about it, but it has enabled people to understand this better and
Mhm.
understand the power of what this can do. And search is one
Mhm.
of those things that's going to be impacted, which obviously is a part of growth planning and things
Yeah.
like that. But I think, you have a sort of special angle on it in
Mhm.
that search is still, even in Chat GPT, is still going to be biased to
A
what the
hundred
information is
percent.
behind
A
it. So
hundred
how do you
percent.
address that? What do you?
Yeah, so you have to think about how these algorithms kind of process these results. When you think of a search engine like a Google, traditionally what they would do is they don't actually rank choices, but they're trusted by most consumers to help them make consumer decision making. So it's the first place people go to for information. They control the algorithms. So they control what information you see first, which plays into anchoring biases. They put sponsorships on the top, et cetera, to kind of bias the decision in that way. But when you're in control of that algorithm, you kind of in control of the information people have to make decisions. So you can nudge those decisions as much as you want to through processes underneath. So the way a Google would work is it would look for the words best car on a web page and rank the web pages, not the cars, because best is subjective. It means something different to you than it means to me. Now, the way ChatGPT works is a little different. Um, it's more like autocorrect on steroids, is what people say, right?
Okay, that's a good
So
way to
it's
put it.
trying to
Interesting.
predict the probability of this word coming after the next word, but it doesn't have a contextual meaning around those words, right? When they scrape the internet to see how this word usage has been done and see the probability is coming next, what they don't know is when you consolidate this usage of this word, you lose all the polysemy, you lose all the different contexts in which this word was coming from. You lose the perspective of the people that were saying it. Um, so you don't necessarily know the meaning. So now when I've aggregated this use of this word coming after this word, it's a generalized use of the word, but say best means 100 different things to
Yeah.
100 different people. Now, how did I consolidate that and what did I come to in a conclusion? So now when I put that word next, the words sound coherent, but the context is lost.
Okay.
But it has the ability to really impact the way people make decisions afterwards. When we talk about the impact on marketing, advertising, consumer behavior, those results will be trusted to make real decisions, which will impact real markets and your ability to actually galvanize your audiences because they can be confused by the confidence of these algorithms.
So will your solution be side by side with something like ChatGPT, or will it be used instead of ChatGPT, or what?
So you got to think ChatGPT is, well, GPT-3 has been out for a while, right? And so these AI algorithms can be used for many things, like categorizing information and consolidating, creating data models and things like that, right? It's been used by engineers for a long time as a tool.
Okay.
It's just now becoming a public facing tool for search,
Yeah.
right? And so now it's now adding a revenue model. So now you have to think, okay, it has an accuracy, and a higher level it goes to accuracy. So now we're paying for more accurate information, right? Like it's a pay for. You can get it faster, you can get access to information, and you can get more accuracy. But if you don't have $20 a month, we'll give you a less accurate, less available, right? Like less useful product for you. Discretionary decisions that have real world impacts on the people that use it.
Okay.
And so that's what I want people to kind of consider with those things, right? Like it's, what is it saying socially, economically? How is it impacting markets?
So how will somebody interact then with your solution? Like what you're providing? What is, I go online and how does it work?
Yeah, so when you think about that context, it's all cultural. So we have human conditions that we're trying to navigate with the decisions we make. And then we have subjective human conditions that we're trying to navigate. So we're trying to navigate the world from our individualized perspectives. So my values, when I say best or when I say worth or when I say whatever the case may be, how I define those terms is really contingent upon who I am. How my algorithm works and how our product works is users do create a profile, but we keep that cultural context within those demographics that you belong to. We also don't assume that just because your age is 25 or you're a woman, that we want to correlate that with all your activity because you clicked on something, etc. We are not everything that we are at all given times. So the way we structure the algorithms, the user can kind of define the terms as they see fit, either through a set of values, but when you don't know what you care about, you can build a point of view by people you trust, by demographics you trust. You can build a perspective that consolidates into a single criterion and ranks choices according to how you see it. So it keeps that individualized context, and then we collectively define those terms when it comes to the communities that we all belong to.
Okay. And do you have any worries that people will use it in a way that is only, I don't want to see other viewpoints. It's only going to be where I'm coming from sort of perspective.
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily worried about that. I want people to be what they are genuinely, because the goal is to basically capture a realistic understanding of like how you see the world, right?
Yeah.
But once that's captured, say for instance, if I want to trust you to help me make a decision, I can see how you've made your decisions. And if you do have that singular cultural view on a single thing, I could see that before I'm influenced by you. Now, when you think about before I choose to be influenced by you, I have the choice to control that, right? And how much or in what decisions. I might still trust you for other decisions, but not necessarily something of relative value. And so when you think about the algorithms that we're talking about, so like a ChatGPT or a Google, you don't have that choice.
Yeah.
It's if you share the same race, you're influenced by everybody in that race or with those clicks, and they're trying to build this overarching persona to represent everybody in a generalized way, but we're not monoliths in any demographics that we belong to, right? We're more than one thing.
Yeah. So on the other side, so we have the search side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm going to refer to ChatGPT because that's what I know.
No. I like it as a research tool.
And people can understand
awesome.
that, right?
Yeah.
On the other side of marketing and communications and even sales to some perspective, it can be, and I have used it as an editing tool and as a way to prompt ideas for blog posts and things like that.
Yeah.
What are the risks of that, given what you're working on?
Yeah. So for the risk of that, I don't necessarily see the risk in that same way, right? Like the biases don't necessarily come to play if I'm just writing an article or if I'm just using it as like inspiration to help me create some content. I use it for research all the time because you can see that it's trained heavily on like a Wikipedia or on books and things like that.
Right.
But it does require a domain expertise to be able to weed through and see what's actually accurate. If you're talking about something within a market or strategy, you would only know if it's true because you have your experience as a marketing exec, right? And doing the things that you do. Now, someone coming off the street who's never had to create a marketing campaign, never had to create these contents, whatever it generates, they won't be able to weed it out. They won't be able to what I'm saying, take the meat and spit the bones.
Yeah.
And so for those guys, if you don't have that domain expertise or you're using it something that's outside of your domain expertise, I would be very cautious on
Okay.
that.
I love
Or
that.
ask
Take
your
the
friend.
meat and spit the bones.
Right.
What? So, do you have any thoughts on sort of the future of where this is going? What the impacts are going to be?
Yeah.
People talk about replacing jobs and all of those very scary things. And what are the implications?
Yeah. So all of those are real considerations, and it's funny because I kind of predicted this years and years ago. You see that this trend in these markets is leading towards an ethics battle, right? When you think about Google's response to those things, Google has already taken all the heat from creating the ads and creating their own stuff, right? So they were uh, taking this cautious route to not create the harms and being responsible for the harms that they wanted to do. That's why they hadn't released their own product beforehand.
Interesting. Okay.
Under competitive pressure, they released it.
Microsoft is getting one up on them.
Yes, under that competitive pressure, they basically made an exception, and so to me, at the end of the day, as long as people are making those constellations, there's always going to be room to compete on the ethics level, right? Like, what does this do for people? Because people are the most important product of the products. We see it as generating results. We see it as generating answers, but those answers lead to decisions that have real world consequences on the people who take that information and run with it. And so at the end of the day, you can't get around the impact that it has on people, on society, on social powers and power dynamics. And I think at some point, everyone will have to be accountable for that. And that'll be the competitive landscape as it moves forward.
Do you think, though, that people who are in these jobs that will be impacted need to start thinking in a different way or bringing value to the table in a different way? Or
no, what I think is I think we need to reimagine what a good economy looks like, right? We focus a lot of our economics metrics on just do people have jobs or how much money they have, but we also focus the economy from a business side on driving consumption and making people spend. So we need more jobs and we need more money, and it's at the expense of the people and making them need to work and making them need to work more money. But it's also building more leverage on the business side to pull as much time and energy out of the people as we need to.
Right.
We need to reimagine the entire ecosystem or the entire infrastructure to where it's about more than just profits, but it's more so about the well-being of the people in a way. How can we be more efficient with the time and the things that we produce to where we're not overproducing products that end up getting thrown out or you know what I'm saying, rebought the next year?
Yeah.
How do we make our business decisions in a way that keeps the people in mind, that actually thinks about what its impact is on the structures of society and how we relate as people?
This is a much bigger philosophical question that we're talking about here. We're gonna go in there. I think you and I may have talked about this before, but I was on the board of Conscious Capitalism when I was living in San Francisco. And this was the whole concept behind that, which was, it's the shareholders, of course, but it's the other stakeholders too, the employees, the suppliers, everybody who's involved in that ecosystem. And how do you make sure that everybody's not needs necessarily, but that they're treated fairly, and that and that's a much bigger, and a lot of people maybe greenwashing that to some degree, like they say they're doing that, but not necessarily. Any advice for companies that are sort of looking in that direction? Yeah,
the advice for companies to see yourself not as a company, but as a country. I say this all the time, right? Like when you think of a Google, it has an economy, right? Like it funnels information, it has money that processes through, they do transactions, they have products in this marketplace, they have consumers and they have businesses. So it has an economics model, right? It has a cultural model, right? When I dictate results, and if I do that disproportionately for one demographic over another, or I give different answers for everybody, I'm making social decisions. I'm making political decisions in terms of the power, et cetera. And then you got to think about your entire ecosystem and everybody's involved. Like you just said, I got my employees, I got my investors, and everyone has different incentives that they're trying to accomplish, right? I think it takes stepping back and seeing this whole thing as a full body. How do I want to operate as a singular being so that I'm not torn between satisfying my investors and my consumers? How do I build my models in a way that's all reconciled, it says the same thing and stands on the same morals and principles? How do I build this system of systems that's holistic and whole, to where it's not tearing at me? So me as a CEO or my marketing person as an exec, we're trying to reconcile messages and create an identity that doesn't genuinely represent who we are. And I think it takes breaking away from this hacker culture a little bit to saying, let's be more intentional about this up front. Let's spend more time planning. let's really test our models the same way we test our technology, right? And consider what's on the line, because it's more so than just the profits. It's more so than just there's people. And I think we should be a lot more intentional about that plan on the front.
Yeah, I always love talking to you because we always go deep, and I think it's not an easy issue to address, but but you're working on it from the high Z angle, and I think that's amazing. How can people reach out or get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can visit us at highc.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn. It's probably where we're most active right now. Or you can follow me, Philip Payne, at highc.com, etc. We will start releasing more on our newsletters, etc. We do have a sign up on that on our website now. So sign up for that for early access. We'll be looking for testers for our beta testing in the next couple of months. And yeah, just supporting as much as you can.
That time in Pittsburgh did you well.
Time in Pittsburgh did me awesome, man.
He's my fellow Pittsburgh guy.
Shout out to the Dukes. Go Duquesne.
Okay, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
We'll be back with the next guest shortly. Okay, we are back with our next guest. We have Ken Pamela from RevStar Consulting. You're an Embark Collective company as well, or you have a space in Embark Collective?
We are not. I'm just there hanging out quite often.
Okay, great. For those of you who don't know, Embark Collective is a co-working space in Tampa, Florida that has a lot of startups here. The startup scene is booming. And I think Ken would know. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a software development agency headquartered here in Tampa. Started the company in 2009 as kind of a side hustle, like a lot of the folks here, and even in places like Embark, right? And just grew it over the years. Finally, quit work full time to do this, and now I sit around 165 people total. So it's grown a lot.
And you have how many people total?
165 as of this week. So.
Wow, that's amazing! Congratulations. We wanted to dive into this session is called Artificial Intelligence and Growth. So I know that you have some knowledge in and have done some work in artificial intelligence. It's not the only that you're in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you've been involved in that and what your viewpoint is on how things are going right now with the whole chat GPT and GPT-4 and all that sort of stuff coming out?
Yeah, I love it. And we kind of see it from sides, right? So I think the most exciting part is just the ability to be more efficient, right, in everything that you do. So for some customers, let's say they're writing a lot of RFPs and they're doing this repetitively. So we can take data models of the common things they're doing and draft this for them, and then they can review it, polish it up, and publish it, right? So you're taking, let's say you have 10 people, you can now have them do way more work, right? So you don't have to grow, your staff to grow your business.
Right.
So that's some of the ways we help customers with efficiency, but then internally for us as well, right? So you mentioned Chat GPT. We're using these technologies to move faster on, things that are less valuable to the company, right? So writing job descriptions, writing an email to ask customers for reviews, things that, they don't take a lot of time, but it's something now you can throw in a Chat GPT and move on to something more strategic. So actually, before I came up here, I was talking to our HR person, and I want to do a corporate philanthropy day, right, where we give folks an extra PTO day to go give back in the community. And she's like,
nice.
"Oh, I haven't found time to write the policy." I literally opened my laptop up and put it in Chat GPT, and it was done 2 seconds later.
That's awesome.
Really, yeah.
So what do you think the implications of that are, though? I mean, because it there's a lot of discussion about taking jobs away and things like that. What do you think the future implications are? It's coming, so we need to deal.
Yeah.
We need to be ready for it. So what do you think are the negatives and the positives?
I don't think it takes jobs away. I think, you have like greater societal issues of like lower birth rates and things like that are actually creating gaps in the workplace, right? So you're going to need these technologies to have, folks that are in the workforce focus on more important tasks, right? So it solves a greater societal problem as well. But I think, these are the things where if you learn to augment what you're doing with these technologies, you're going to be way out ahead of everyone else, right? So the kind of work that people want to do aren't these repetitive things. Like no one wants to sit and write job descriptions all day, right? So you put them in Chat GPT, and you can write a lot more of them and cover more ground. And you can focus on more strategic things like how we hire, who we're hiring, how do we identify the right talent, right? That's what I want her doing, not writing job descriptions. I think it's just adopting it to, almost augment you versus replace you, right? Like I think that's a better word to use, and so that you can do things that are more fun and interesting.
So what do the employees need to be thinking about in terms of, like, for an HR person, being more strategic? How do they prepare themselves? And I think a lot of times we've gotten so caught up in doing the tasks and the tactical and all of that, which will probably be going away in the future. How do they get themselves prepared for that future?
I think we all have tasks that we need to be doing that are more strategic, that we push off for the day-to-day. So I think it's almost like treated almost as someone that works for you, right? It's like, what would I delegate to this versus being afraid of it and saying, oh, it's going to replace me, right? And that's just a mind shift thing, right? Like I think there's times in your career where your boss might tell you, hey, you should hire someone that you could either take the opinion of, oh my God, they can take my job, or, how can I hand off some things and move on to more valuable work that I can get paid more money for? So I think you just look at it the same way, right? These things are here to help, and it's just a mindset shift.
Yeah. So there's lots of different applications of AI. We talk about AI like it's this thing. Machine learning, like what are the types of things that you're seeing companies integrating into their solutions that you're developing for them, and what are some of the unique ideas people have been using, all the different elements of AI?
So like I mentioned earlier, drafting reports, things like that. I think, using data to, I have one customer and they're in government contracting, and they basically help you find opportunities. They can even perform services like helping you write RFPs, write responses to RFPs. But one thing they don't have right now, and I mentioned them the other day, is, well, what happens? Where am I spending my time? Right? Which RFPs are more important? Which ones do I win? Which ones have are more lucrative for me? So when you think about machine learning, it's like I put all that data back in there, and that's something that isn't being captured. If they added that, now I can see, hey, this one is going to be 85% a good fit. So now their customers spending time writing RFPs for things that are, let's say, 75% or better, and they're not chasing things that they're probably not going to
I
win.
like that. That's interesting. I'm in the growth industry, right? Marketing, sales, business development, customer success. Any thoughts on how this may impact that industry moving forward, and what we should be prepared for, what we should be thinking about?
So like we'll go to GPT because that's really exciting right now, right? But you can write canned emails, sales messages, LinkedIn posts, things like that. So when you think about being a founder or early stage, you can publish 10 blogs in less than 5 minutes, right? So I think it shifts again to getting more done more quickly. You can be more competitive. It does allow you to take more control over your sales and marketing into your own hands, right? I think there's still the strategic part, right? Who your ICP is, your go-to-market, those things. It's probably not going to tell you. I haven't honestly typed that in there. Maybe it does, but I think that kind of stuff you'll always do. But these tasks that a lot of people just push to the side that will help them generate more content. And think about sitting down and writing a week's worth of LinkedIn posts for engagement. That's done in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do a lot more.
There's a lot of discussion going on about original thought, though. Thought leadership, and that ChatGPT is not good. This kind of goes to the discussion earlier. As a marketer, needing to prepare yourself to be thinking more strategically rather than just spitting out whatever is the next, piece of content that might not have original thought, because everybody's going to be able to do that. So being able to compete will require people, I think, to be able to have that original thought. Any thoughts on that?
I think when you look at marketing content, like a lot of it is sort of canned anyway, right? People copy each other. So you're trying to beat algorithms, right? That's really what it is. Like Google has an algorithm, social media has an algorithm. So you're just using technology now to beat another algorithm, right?
Okay.
But the thought leadership piece you're talking about, the content gets you to the website, right? Do you beat the algorithm to get someone in? You still have to be the expert.
Yeah.
So I think you're not augmenting. Like you can't ask ChatGPT, you can't go in there and say, tell me how to build a business that does A, B, and C, and like actually take that and go like pitch that to somebody, right? Like it doesn't have. And maybe GPT-4 will have it, but I think there's just things that you'll have to do. So from like a go-to-market strategy perspective, I would say what that would spit out wouldn't be strong enough, or I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that. So I think that's where
you still need the original thought.
Yeah, you're using this to augment, right?
Yeah.
I can go and look at what my competitors ranking for, and I can go publish 10 times the amount of content as them, pull you into my website, but I still have to provide a valuable service.
Right. The other side for marketing that is interesting, and the fact that Google and Microsoft Bing and Google Search are wanting to use it, is on the search side of things, which is, again, going to impact the marketing industry. Any thoughts on the search side of things? And
the search side's interesting, and I think it's more of a price point. So we'll give you better search, right? But ChatGPT is expensive. I don't, the cost model there, they have to get their cost per search down. So like Google's, 0.00003 cents a search, and ChatGPT is 50 cents, right? So I think it's just kind of seeing how those mesh together and making it more accessible. Right now they just introduced $20 a month if you want
Yes.
better performance, right? But I think they're losing money even at that price point. So the question is does it go up to being really expensive, or are they able to, get the cost down to where the average person can plug it in and use it?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see where this goes, because I've only really used it as the free version. I haven't explored it since Microsoft took over and the whole Bing thing. So it'll be interesting to see how they apply that and make a business model out of it, which is obviously good and bad in different ways. Anything that you're concerned about in the future, and when it comes to AI and machine learning and any of these sort of areas?
I think what stuff is not as much real artificial intelligence like you see in the Terminator movie.
Yes.
I think that stuff is always at the back of my mind. It's like, does this get so smart where it, and they're starting to get there, right? There's been articles, things like that, where there's they ask something, questions, and it was like, we should kill all of humanity, right? So I think that stuff does, you have to think about that, and I wonder what the kind of the ethics are around it, right? So ChatGPT is not going to determine that humans are their own worst enemy
And take over the
but that it's
a
funny.
Step in that direction.
Yeah, you see this stuff in movies, and you're like, that could maybe happen. Right? So I think it's just the ethics around it, so we have to keep an eye on that.
Yes, we just had the first. Philip Fain. I don't know if you know Philip Fain. He's we had a big conversation earlier before you on the ethics of all of this, and especially on the search side and the biases and all of that. So how can people reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you? What can they learn more about you?
So definitely, our website, webstarconsulting.com. If you look me up on LinkedIn, or if they're hanging around here at Synapse, I'm running around and we have a booth downstairs. So
awesome.
Love to chat more about technology in general, AI, anything anyone might want to talk
Thank
about.
you. It's Ken Pamela. Are you enjoying the show so far?
I am. Love Synapse. A lot of energy. Even as we're sitting here, people are walking by. Just love
it's
innovation.
Very energetic right now. It's good. It's over 6,000 people attending. Yeah. This is Tampa's big show.
It's getting bigger every year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll go on hold until the next guest appears. Okay, we are here with our last AI guest for the day, Sat Ramphal from Maya AI, based in Tampa as well.
Born and raised too.
How's the show been for you so far? You guys have a table here?
We don't have a table, unfortunately, not this year, but the show's been amazing.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see Kathy Woods and Steve Case later.
Yeah, and you had did you see who was the woman from
Peloton?
Peloton. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did not make that one, but I heard she was actually pretty incredible. Though.
Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but anyway, we're gonna have a kind of a deep dive onto AI and the future of AI, and we'll talk a little bit about your company, and I think you developed alongside your brothers.
Correct.
Is that
correct. One older, one younger.
Okay, and you're the middle one.
I'm the middle one.
You are the Jan Brady or the Peter Brady of.
It's an interesting, but we love it. We absolutely do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about Maya AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So what Maya is, basically, she's a deep research and strategy engine. we developed my model around neuromorphic AI. Neuromorphic AI is AI that is modeled on how the brain works, thinks, and processes information. How memories in your brain react with neurons and prompts and fires against that when something happens in the brain. So that's how we model our AI. And so how we put that into market and application today is what Maya does is she takes in data, company, she takes in data from the World Wide Web, and she's constantly learning from that as the data changes from the World Wide Web. So she's actually always getting smarter, even when you're not using her. And so that's actually incredibly an advantage for us because most AIs today, when you use it, it's a refresh system when you use it again. But with our system, what's really unique is let's just say you go on vacation and you come back a week later, Maya would still know you, still know who your name is, and get smarter than when the time you used her. So that's how that memory system really, really makes a big impact. And today, how we really put that into application in the real world is we help like metamorphin or something like that. It's a drug for mostly diabetes.
Okay.
Well, we help them repurpose that drug to help delete cancer cells.
Explain that more. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
No, definitely.
I didn't know this part.
So how we do that is what Maya does is she sits on top of their data stack, reads all the clinical data, the patient data, the medical data. She's also connected to the World Wide Web. So, places like Cornell Medicine, MIT, Google Scholar, Google for Health, all of these different places that have great access to information. This is research just changed like yesterday, not 2 years ago. So what we do is we take those two sets of data and we smash it together. But there's a few more other sources. So we'll look at like social media sources, we'll look at reviews, we'll look at what patients might say about their symptoms online and other places. Smash all of that together, look at compounds and genomics, and then come up with an assessment, a generative report. Maya's going to come up with a generative report, say, hey, this is what the patient is experiencing. This is what we think the drug will be able to help with. And here's some secondary options to go with it. And then she's going to cite her sources of where she learned that data from. Okay. So that's how she does it all.
And so in that's a tough field, the medical industry. So are there rules and regulations that you have to be sure that you're integrating into all this? And how do you do that?
So that's a very timely question. It's very interesting because we pivoted into pharmaceutical only like maybe 4 months ago.
Okay.
We were originally in retail, and there's barely any regulations there. And so today, most of our growth has actually been international in Europe and Asia.
Okay.
In the US, we're working on our HIPAA, our FDA, and our ISO compliance today. And those are what we actually do need to be able to support these companies in the US.
Okay. And earlier we talked a little bit about AI and bias. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned about that at all for what you're doing and the information that you're putting into this?
I'm concerned about the world in regards to what they're doing in bias and AI. It's a huge concern for us, and that's why we did a lot of work to try to fix that. So that's why in our system, it's a self-learning and self-omitting system. So that means there's no humans in there managing the models, creating the models, or batch uploading data. So they don't have to input their human bias into the code that they're creating. All that bias is mostly coming from the humans that's creating the AI, creating the machine learning models that they're creating. And so because it's self-learning and self-omitting, it's all upon the AI to do that. And that helps to remove a big, giant portion of the bias because most bias today comes from the human. It doesn't come from the technology. It comes from how the human created the technology. But if the technology is creating the technology itself, then it's a whole different story. And so how we did that essentially is how you raise a child. We taught fundamentals, math, science, reading, writing, and then she just started to grow on her own. And we grew her with parameters and guardrails. So like you can't curse at Maya, she'll shut down. She won't curse at you. She has to stay within her guardrails that you hire her for. Gotcha. She can never go out of that. So let's just say you hire Maya for drug repurposing. She'll never go out and try to discover or learn about tables and chairs. That's just part of her manners and how she works.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So very interesting because, I have this vision for this company, for GrowthMVP, related to growth playbooks and things like that. Do you have any thoughts or any how these things will integrate into the marketing, sales, business development side of things? I'm sure you've had to be involved in that with your own company.
Definitely. And that's actually one of the things that we did for retail before we pivoted was kind of in the marketing space a little bit.
Okay.
And I think it's a huge market generative AI in and of itself, its biggest market today is in content creation, content.
Yes.
And so I do think there's a huge opportunity there, especially for earlier stage companies, because they don't have the manpower or their bandwidth or the resources to hire another person. Yeah. So what they would do, they're going to hire the AI to do it for them. And so I do think that there's a huge there's a huge level that the startups can play there using AI in growing their own companies. Because what it also does for them is it performs market research as well, which is huge. Most startups don't perform market research, so they don't know who they're marketing to.
Right.
So as a founder, you would spend all your time on Google trying to just perform market research. You want to be out in the field actually selling and dealing with customers. And so the AI can help with that. Generative AI can help with doing market research. Generative AI can help creating content, help creating art, creating copy, marketing campaigns, identifying marketing channels that would be the best fit for you. Based on your industry, based on your customer profile type.
Yep.
Inputting that into an AI system and then having it shoot out, well, hey, we think that these are the best channels for you because this, and this. It's going to get there. It's going to get there pretty quickly. It's going to really help a lot of small businesses.
So if our audience is consisting of marketing, sales, business development people, what kind of advice would you give them to be prepared for this future where maybe some of the tactical and research things might be replaced by AI?
I would say really get into learning AI today and know what it can do and where it's going and where it's getting and what it will replace. Because, check it out, right? People were scared when computers came out. Like, it was going to replace all these jobs. And where are we today? It's actually created more jobs.
Right.
And so I think that AI is not going to replace people, but people that know how to use AI will replace people who don't know how to use AI.
Yep.
And so, that's what I would really, really advise is to really learn how to use the AI, understand AI and machine learning as a whole general topic itself, and how it's going to benefit not just your business, but the world around you, how you live, how you act on a daily basis. Because it's all over the place. It's not just in marketing and telemedicine and in other places. So as a founder, you also have to figure out how to ground yourself into this new revolutionary change of technology.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, I'm looking at the time. We have 3 minutes left. I want to make sure that you are able to let people know how to learn more about you and your company and where they can connect with you.
Definitely. We're mostly on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. We're posting a lot of cool videos of Maya, so you're probably going to see it in a few different places. As the days and weeks and months go along. Recently getting spotlighted on Fox 13 and a few more interviews coming up this week.
Awesome.
It's been a really interesting growth for us. So you can check us out on LinkedIn. Please reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about it and just, give you advice or inform me about where the world of AI is going.
And your website is?
Meetmaya.world.
Because there are other Mayas in the world.
There are other Mayas in the world.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sat Bramfall, for being here today.
It was a pleasure.
It was a great conversation.
It is. Great conversation.
You're doing great stuff. And it's great to see you sort of evolve in your company, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Michelle, and can't wait to enjoy the rest of the conference.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Thanks.